Two cars were waiting at a stoplight. The light turned green, but the man didn't notice it. The woman in the car behind him was watching the traffic passing around them. She noticed the light changing color. The woman began pounding on her steering wheel and yelling at the car ahead of her to move. The car didn't move. The woman started going ballistic inside her car. She ranted and raved at the man, pounding on her steering wheel. The light turned yellow. She began to lean on her horn. She flipped off the man and screamed curses at him so loudly they could be heard outside of her car. The man, hearing the commotion and the horn, looked up, saw the yellow light, and accelerated through the intersection just as the light turned red. The woman was beside herself, screaming in frustration because she missed her chance to go through the intersection. As she was still in mid-rant, she hears a tap on her window and looks up into the face of a very serious policeman. The policeman tells her to shut off the car and then keep both her hands in sight. She complies, speechless at what is happening. After she shuts off the engine, the policeman orders her to exit her car with her hands up and then to place her hands on the roof of the car. She gets out of the car and does that, and she is quickly cuffed, and hustled into a police car. She's too bewildered by the chain of events to ask any questions, as she is driven to the police station and subsequently, when she is fingerprinted, photographed, searched, booked, and placed in a cell. After a couple of hours, a policeman approaches the cell and opens the door for her. She is escorted back to the booking desk, where the original officer who knocked on her window is waiting with her personal effects. He hands her the bag of her things and says, "I'm really, really sorry for this mistake. But you see, I pulled up behind your car while you were blowing your horn, flipping the guy off, and swearing so loudly I could hear you outside of your car. And then I noticed the bumper sticker, 'What would Jesus do?' The other bumper sticker, 'Follow me to Sunday school.' And then the chrome-plated Christian fish emblem on your trunk, and I knew you had stolen that car." At Epiphany, we copy a question from Meister Eckhart. You remember we did so much work with the mystics last year. He said, "What good is it to me if Mary gave birth to Christ 20 centuries ago, and I don't give birth to Christ in my person and my culture and my times?" Now, he wrote that in Germany, where he was living in the 13th century. But here in Canada, in the 21st century, we follow a trusted pattern on this Sunday of the Star and images of traveling. We heard Adina read from St. Matthew's Gospel about the travelers who crossed a desert. We can rephrase the question. What good is it to me if wise men traveled on a pilgrimage to worship the Christ, if I can't find any pilgrimage that calls to me now in 2022? I find myself wondering what it actually means for Christ to be born in me or in you in 2022. I know that it's a lot more than a couple of bumper stickers and a chrome fish on the back of our car. And that's what my opening apocryphal story was about. Is there something in the questions of Meister Eckhart to deepen our experience and focus our searching here and now? On a card, I have two of his quotes, and the other one is this, and I have to tell you, I don't know what volume of his works it's from. He said, "There, where clinging to things ends, is where God begins to be. If the cask is contain wine, you must first pour out the water. The cask must be bare and empty. Therefore, if you wish to receive divine joy and God, first pour out your clinging to things. Everything that is to receive must be empty. Epiphany's imagery is that of the star which represents the Christ, the light that shines in the darkness. The Magi narrative invites us into that drama of searching and leaving the familiar to find the light that shines from the heart of cosmic love. The star shines over the Christ and over each one of us and over all creation, to bathe that creation and all creatures in hope, peace, joy, and love. When we add the willingness of the astrologers to leave home for an undetermined length of time, we see the translation of those spiritual values into physical and emotional energy. To this very day, we find astrologers interesting. These ancient Magi astrologers did make a huge mistake when they talked to King Herod. We can acknowledge that. St. Matthew doesn't try to hide it or fudge it. Their very humanity is reinforced by that flaw. We, too, are a long way from the angels, from the realms of glory that we had in St. Luke's Gospel. The radiance of Epiphany's story is that it shines on all and in all, revealing an image of God within each of us. Meister Eckhart said we must pour out the old in order to receive the divine light and guidance. We are invited to pour out the old ways. How hard that is. There, where clinging to things ends, is where God begins to be, he wrote. If a cask is contain wine, you must first pour out the water. And the Magi actually illustrate this, pivoting from one plan to another. They followed a star, they trusted their dreams, and they changed their route. Now, a lot of Christmas travelers this year must feel like they understand that changing their route dynamic as a kindred spirit. But if we pour out our old beliefs about following Jesus, I wonder if we are able to trust divine love and grace to pour in new ideas, new notions. So then the Magi do not represent the static pattern of we three kings, but become fellow pilgrims, constantly adapting when the situation changes. This divine love can transform us and invite us into living the good news, responding to it, and sharing it in new ways. That's the power and the mystery of the Incarnation. Emmanuel, God comes among us, but not to stay as a baby who causes nothing but angelic singing and rejoicing shepherds. Matthew stresses that the revolution of the Incarnation can be difficult, but his gospel message will drum that we are never alone. That is the power and the mystery of Epiphany, the really revealing of God's intention to be with us and known to us. All this takes place because God, however you understand God to be, has sought to be one with us, coming among us time and again in many ways, in many voices, in many hearts. Behind the age-old story of that first Christmas, as told by Matthew and Luke, and beyond the cosmic theology of the Word made flesh told by St. John, beyond all the cultural and commercial things that have come to surround Christmas, the shining of that solitary star at Epiphany tells us that we matter. Do you have a heart to set out like those Magi of old? In spite of not having a Google Map app that will clearly offer you 3 routes and tell you how long it will take. In spite of all the uncertainties of not knowing what this church, our worship, our future will hold. I wonder if we can dare to travel. I wonder if we can really wish to receive divine joy and God. I wonder if we can first pour out our clinging to things. I wonder if we trust that everything that is to receive must be empty. We do know this. The star shines as God's invitation for us to join with God in the transformation of this world. This season is both beautiful and flawed then, because it is about transformation with human agents and our participation with God in making the world new. We are invited, we are called to participate in and with God as part of this great process of transformation. We, who have looked up over the Salish Sea to search to find the star, and who have sought to see the footprints of the Magi's camel train across the lawns of our neighborhoods here in Victoria, we are invited to participate in the new birth and new world proclaimed by the Gospels. The Christ comes among us as the light that shines in the darkness, inviting us to join in dispelling the shadows that hide us and seeking to shine the light of justice and truth on the old ways that need to be poured out in order to allow the light and the grace of the Holy One to fill us up. The sacred Spirit of God yearns to thrive, act, and love within us and all creation. The greatest epiphany is the discovery of the light within ourselves and to see it in all people and all creation. Amen.